kitchen. Today's gonna be a cooking episode with Executive Chef Trev. He's gonna teach us all how to cook. We're making an Indian-inspired chicken and rice dish with lots of veggies. Tonight we're gonna have Chef Trev cook and teach me how to cook and teach you how to cook. We have all these fabulous ingredients.
These are the most expensive peas ever. $499 tub of peas. I actually started with a recipe for Navratan korma, and that entails Garam Masala, so I needed to get that. I also wanted to restock on paprika because it's so versatile. It's also useful here. And I needed fenugreek. In terms of aromatics, you need about somewhere between an inch or two of ginger, so we have more than enough ginger here, as well as a full, nice, sweet yellow onion. I always prefer sweet onions. If I can't get sweet onions, I always go for shallots, but all onions are great. We also would normally use a tomato in this case. We may not use it here just out of personal preference. And on the same token, you wouldn't normally use green onions here, but because we like it and Vera likes it so much, we may just use some green onions here as well. We have florets of broccoli and cauliflower, but also curly kale. Another note on the spices. Some of this is going to be done from scratch, like the serrano pepper. There are definitely better options to be used than a serrano, but a single serrano could suffice for an entire family-sized portion of the Navratan korma. Also on the vegetables, we have carrots, which we're going to dice in with the broccoli and the cauliflower. Navratan korma, it's really about the vegetables. But in our case, we'd like to have some protein. And we chose chicken.
So we chose chicken.
Smart
thighs.
chicken.
Chicken thighs.
We also have two different curry powders. This is a chermula. This is sort of a North African, Middle Eastern curry. And then this is a Malaysian curry, of course, more of a Southeast Asian curry. And then finally we have the Finally we have the rice here. This is sushi rice. So first things first, we take this rice using a measuring cup. What we do for about 2 good portions of the rice, I'd say between 1 very large portion and 3 small portions, you'd want to do about a cup of rice and a cup and a quarter of water. This is not my normal rice cooking pan, but it's what I have to work with right now. Any of that excess you can throw back into the bag, or you can just compensate with more water. I usually elect to put a little bit more water in there. So in this case, I have more like 1 1/3 cups of water. Another tip is to leave your rice soaking in that water for about a half hour. If you were to rinse the rice clean and run water through it until the water runs clear out of the rice, then you can actually use this rice for sushi rice. That is the traditional method as to washing the rice. What you can do after soaking the rice, if you elect to do so, you can dry it. After you've waited for it to dry and become brittle, you crush it into pearls, and that is known as Vietnamese pearl rice, which is very good. You actually don't need to soak it for a half an hour, although it usually helps. Personally, I just get started because I'm usually very hungry when I'm making rice. Got our rice on the stove here. And what we do is we turn it on high. Mid-high is fine, but what you want to do is make sure that it comes to a boil, a full boil. And I usually let it boil for just a couple of minutes, and then you cover it. And after you covered it, take it back down to a simmer. So you put it on the first setting, which is right above low. And then you let it sit 20 to 25 minutes, give or take. You really just judge it based on the consistency after that. Okay, so now you see that it's boiling. At this point, I usually let the water boil off just a bit. I personally like my rice a bit firm. Less moisture means harder grains. At least that's the way I see it. I let it do this for about half a minute to a minute. I agitate it. Not things you're necessarily supposed to do. It just makes me feel better. And then what you do, you cover it and switch it down in the same moment. And this will need to be left about 20 to 25 minutes. So we put a timer on for 25 minutes and we let it rest. Always keep your fingers far away. I was gonna do a joke like, my finger, but I decided not to. That's quite enough kale. It's a lot of kale. Get ready for the next. This is how you cut an onion without crying. Best thing to do, gas mask. If you have any sunglasses, that helps too. No tears. That should be about enough. We forgot to mention this. You're going to want to skin the ginger, so make sure you scale it. This little serrano pepper is not super hot, but it will give this dish the right amount of heat. One thing you want to do with the serrano pepper, if you want less heat, it's the seeds as well as this white stocky part that contains almost all of the heat. So if you want less heat, just remove that. And mince it. Keep in mind, if you don't strip the inside of the serranos or whatever pepper you are using of the seeds, you will get a much spicier dish. In our final round for aromatics, it's the green onion. This is not a necessary component, but it is something that we want to include. You see these stalks? I like to include these too. Usually a toss-up for me whether I include this as well. This is the bulb. One thing you definitely can do with the bulb is put it in a glass of water, and then you can grow your own green onions hydroponically. Alright. Got all our ducks in a row. Chicken you want to cut against the grain. For this dish, you want a very small pieces. I'm looking somewhere between 1/4 inch and 1 inch. Doesn't really matter. It does not need to be homogeneous, but you need to ensure that they'll cook in about the same amount of time per piece. So in total, what you're looking at here is about 1/4 pound of chicken. Malaysian curry powder, which contains a lot of what we've already put into this dish. Tablespoon of minced garlic. The chicken. This is for the larger dish. Includes half a teaspoon of our tumeric blend and half a teaspoon of our Malaysian blend. Something else that's important to remember. First the ghee, then the spices, and then the aromatics. That is what makes a curry. If you dash a bit of spice in there, you'll be able to hear it crackle, and that's a good way to indicate. Your ghee is ready. You don't want to do this too long without cooking your dish as soon as possible, because while the butter won't burn, the aromatic ingredients that be added to it will. If only you could smell this beautiful garlic curry soup. A great method of allowing that chicken to cool is putting tinfoil underneath the cooling sheet, and that way you can dump any amount of oils that are hot, all the substances that you like, and they're just collected on that sheet, which you can throw in the trash. Now finally, we're ready for the curry proper. First things first, 2 tablespoons of ghee. We're going to dump in all the aromatics. We do let those cook.
How long do the vegetables cook?
Oh, not long. Seconds. But just like Vero was doing, we want to stir it from the bottom up, because all of those oils, all of those spices and aromatics are on the bottom, and all of these fresh vegetables which we would like to cook are on the top. Any burns or residue on the bottom of the pan will all come off later. Okay. Now this is sufficiently tender. That's when you add the chicken. First the chicken. You absolutely do not need to add chicken. Without chicken, this is still a vegetarian dish. And like I mentioned earlier, if you'd like to make this a vegan dish, you do exactly what we did, except don't add chicken and don't add ghee. Instead of ghee, use canola oil. Now that smells good. At this point, it's our final step. We're going to make it a fried rice.
Ooh, my favorite. I love the part where it becomes dry.
Yeah. So what you do with that, you temper the rice, you make sure that it's ready to penetrate the rest of the meal and get into all those crevasses. To do that, you just chop it, and then you turn it. Keep chopping. And you can see this beautiful color. It's a golden, brownish, reddish color that we're getting all over the rice. And that means you've done your job well. And we're done. This is ready.
Yeah, that's a delicious meal right there.
Then this is your finished product. And it smells fantastic.
I'm so excited.
Have you ever tasted anything like it?
Oh, this is good.
Thank you.
It's like the perfect fried rice and with Indian curry mixed together.
We did this.
Oh no, it's all you, Chef Trev.
We did it together.